The morning sun beat down on Alan Wright's neck as he carefully brushed dust from a stone carving. Sweat dripped off his nose despite the shade of the canvas tent. 6 days into the dig in northern Guatemala, and this was the first truly interesting find. "Hey, Carol, come look at this," Alan called to his assistant. The symbols on the stone didn't match any known Mayan dialect. They weren't Aztec either. Carol pushed her glasses up and leaned in. "What am I looking at, Professor?" "I don't know," Alan admitted. "That's what makes it exciting." At 45, Alan had spent more than half his life digging up the past. Most university colleagues had long ago moved to classroom-only positions, but he couldn't give up fieldwork. The thrill of discovery kept him going, even as younger archaeologists joined his teams. "The symbols glow slightly in the dark," Alan said. "We noticed it last night when we were putting the tarps up." "Phosphorus in the stone, maybe," Carol suggested. Alan shook his head. "Phosphorus doesn't last 500 years, let alone however old these are." He stood up, stretching his back. "I'm going to check the cave system we mapped yesterday. These markings match the ones near the entrance." "Want company?" she asked. "No, finish cataloging those pottery fragments. I'll radio if I find anything." The cave entrance was cool compared to the jungle heat. Alan switched on his headlamp and followed the string markers his team had placed during initial exploration. The deeper he went, the stranger the carvings became. They didn't look chiseled into the stone, more like they'd been burned with incredible precision. An hour later, he reached a dead end his team had noted. A flat wall covered in swirling symbols that seemed almost to shift when he wasn't looking directly at them. He snapped several photos, then carefully touched one of the more prominent designs, a spiral with what looked like a human figure in the center. The symbol sank into the stone under his fingertip. "What the?" Alan whispered, stepping back. A low rumble filled the cave. Alan frantically reached for his radio, but before he could call for help, the floor beneath him split open. He fell, his scream echoing off the walls as he tumbled into darkness. He hit something soft, some kind of moss or fungus that broke his fall. His headlamp had survived, illuminating a chamber that couldn't possibly be natural. The walls were too smooth, the ceiling too perfectly curved. In the center stood what looked like a metal sarcophagus, not stone or wood like the Maya or Aztecs would have used. This was made of a silvery metal that showed no signs of tarnish or age. Symbols similar to those above were etched across its surface. "Hello," he called out, his voice bouncing around the chamber. No answer except his own echo. Alan checked his radio. No signal. His phone showed the same. He was cut off, at least 100 feet below the surface. He approached the sarcophagus carefully. As he got closer, the symbols began to glow with a soft blue light. When he was just a few feet away, lines of light traced patterns across the chamber floor, connecting to the walls. "This isn't pre-Columbian," Alan whispered to himself. "This isn't anything human." Just then, his phone buzzed. "Signal. Down here." He looked at the screen. It wasn't a call, but an emergency alert. "Unknown objects entering Earth's atmosphere. This is not a drill. Seek HFY or MEDATLI." As Alan stared at his phone in confusion, the sarcophagus began to pulse with light, as if responding to the alert. The symbols glowed brighter, and a seam appeared down the center of what he had thought was the lid. It wasn't a tomb, he realized with sudden clarity. It was something else entirely. And whatever was happening above ground, Alan couldn't shake the feeling that this discovery was somehow connected. The seam widened, light pouring out from inside. Olivia Grant ducked behind a burned-out car as another explosion lit up the sky. 3 days since the aliens arrived, and what remained of the Colorado military base was now just smoking ruins. Her uniform was torn and dirty, her face streaked with ash and blood. "Major, they're coming this way," whispered Sam, a young soldier who had stuck with her after their unit scattered. Olivia peered over the hood of the car. 5 creatures moved through the rubble, their bodies tall and thin with too many joints in their limbs. They weren't wearing space suits like in the movies. Instead, they had some kind of shimmering field around them that seemed to bend the light. "We need to move," she said. "Now." They crawled away from the aliens, keeping low behind wreckage. The creatures, the Vexillar, according to their first broadcast, carried weapons that fired beams of energy that could cut through tank armor like it was paper. Their message had been simple and terrible. Humans were a resource to be harvested. Their bodies contained something the Vexillar needed. What exactly, Olivia didn't know. She only knew that everyone they captured was loaded onto ships and never seen again. As they reached the edge of what had been the base perimeter, a scream cut through the air. A civilian woman was running from 2 Vexillar, clutching a child to her chest. "Stay here," Olivia ordered Sam, then raised her rifle and fired 3 quick shots. The bullets bounced off the aliens' energy shields, but it was enough to draw their attention away from the woman, who disappeared into a drainage ditch with her child. "Run," Olivia shouted at Sam as the aliens turned toward them, their weapons raising. They sprinted for the tree line as energy beams cut through the air around them. One blast hit a rock near Olivia's feet, sending her flying. She hit the ground hard, the wind knocked out of her. Sam grabbed her arm and pulled her up. They made it to the trees just as another blast turned a pine into splinters. "We need to find the others," Olivia gasped when they finally stopped running. Their group had been separated during the last attack. 27 survivors, mostly military with a few civilians they'd picked up along the way. "The meetup point is 5 miles east," Sam said, checking his compass. "If anyone made it, that's where they'll be." As they walked through the forest, they saw ships in the sky. Not the smaller fighters that had attacked the base, but massive craft that blotted out the sun. One hovered directly over Denver, its underside opening to release hundreds of smaller crafts. "It's happening everywhere," Sam said, showing Olivia his phone. It was one of the few still working, picking up emergency broadcasts from around the world. New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, all under attack. "Any word from the president?" Olivia asked. Sam shook his head. Pentagon was hit first, then the White House. When they reached the meeting point, an old ranger station, they found only 7 of their group waiting. Among them was Kate, Olivia's younger sister who had been visiting when the attack began. "Thank God," Kate said, hugging Olivia tightly. "I thought you were dead." "Not yet," Olivia said. "What's our status?" she asked the others. "Low on ammo, low on food," said Paul, a retired army sergeant. "But we picked up something on the radio. There's a resistance forming in the mountains, and rumors of something else." "What rumors?" Olivia asked. "Someone fighting back. Actually winning," Kate said, her eyes wide. "They say a man in some kind of armor took out an entire Vexillar squad near the old mining complex, like nothing they've ever seen before." Olivia frowned. "That's impossible. Nothing we have can stand up to their weapons." "It wasn't our tech," Paul said quietly. "Witnesses said the armor wasn't human-made. It was something else." As night fell, Olivia took first watch, staring up at the alien ships. If there was someone out there with technology that could fight the Vexillar, she needed to find them. It might be humanity's only hope. Alan stared at the glowing seam that had appeared on the metal sarcophagus. The light grew brighter, pulsing in time with the emergency alerts on his phone. He had been trapped in the underground chamber for hours now, trying to find a way out, but the hole he had fallen through had sealed itself somehow. More alerts kept coming. Reports of strange ships over major cities, power outages across the country. The word invasion appeared more and more. "This can't be happening," Alan whispered, but he knew it was. And somehow, this ancient metal object was connected to it all. He walked slowly around the sarcophagus, studying the glowing symbols. They reminded him of star charts, of DNA strands, of circuit boards, all at once, As he completed his circle, he noticed something he had missed before. On the side facing away from where he had fallen was a depression in the metal. It looked like a handprint, a human handprint. Alan looked at his own hand, then back at the depression in the metal. Could it really be that simple? "What choice do I have?" he said to the empty chamber. With no way out, and the world apparently ending above him, what did he have to lose? He took a deep breath and placed his palm against the handprint. The effect was instant. The seam of light widened, and the top half of the sarcophagus slid open with a soft hiss. Inside was not a body, but what looked like a suit of armor. It was made of the same silvery metal as the container, with lines of blue light running through it like veins. It was shaped for a human body. His body, he somehow knew. Another alert buzzed on his phone. This one showed video. Tall, thin creatures moving through the streets of the city, firing weapons that cut people in half. The text read, "Unknown aliens attacking worldwide. Military defenses failing." Alan looked back at the armor. It wasn't a coincidence that he had found this now. It couldn't be. "I must be crazy," he muttered, but he was already climbing onto the edge of the sarcophagus. The armor seemed to shift as he approached, opening up to receive him. He lay back, fitting his body into the curves of the metal suit. It was cold against his skin, but not uncomfortably so. As soon as he was in position, the armor began to move, wrapping around his limbs, his torso, his neck, finally covering his head. For a moment, there was darkness. Then pain, sharp, hot pain that ran through every nerve in his body. Alan tried to scream, but couldn't. It felt like something was connecting to him, wire by wire, vein by vein, thought by thought. Images flashed through his mind. Stars he didn't recognize, creatures he had never seen, battles across landscapes that couldn't be Earth. Knowledge poured into him like water into an empty cup, filling spaces in his mind he didn't know existed. The Preservers. That was the name that came to him. An ancient race that had traveled the stars long before humans had even walked upright. They had fought the Vexillar before, and won. Alan saw it all through memories that weren't his own. The Preservers had seeded humanoid life throughout the galaxy, leaving behind sentinels, the armor suits, for their descendants to find if the Vexillar ever returned. And now they had returned. To Earth. For humans. The pain subsided, replaced by a strange sense of power. Alan could feel the armor now as if it were his own skin, but stronger, faster, better. Information scrolled across his vision. System checks, power levels, weapon capabilities. He sat up, the movement smoother than it should have been. The armor moved with him perfectly, as if it had always been a part of him. He stood, taller than before. "I understand now," he said, his voice sounding strange through the armor systems. The wall of the chamber that had been solid before slid open, revealing a passageway upward. The armor knew the way out. The armor knew everything. Alan began to climb toward the surface, toward a world under attack. Alan moved through the tunnel toward the surface, each step faster and lighter than should have been possible. The armor responded to his thoughts more than his muscles. He didn't climb so much as flow upward, the metal suit enhancing his strength and balance. All the while, information continued to flood his mind. The armor was teaching him, preparing him. He learned that the Vexillar were not just invaders but harvesters. They traveled from world to world, seeking the biological descendants of the Preservers. Human DNA contained something the Vexillar needed to survive, something they could not create themselves. The tunnel ended at a small opening halfway up a cliff face. Alan emerged into the night air, seeing the jungle below through enhanced vision. Everything was sharper, clearer. He could see heat signatures of animals moving through the trees. He could hear conversations from the camp a mile away. The dig site was hit, a voice said. It was Carol, his assistant. No sign of Professor Wright. "We need to move," another voice answered. "Those things are sweeping this whole area." Alan wanted to call out, to tell them he was alive, but a sudden awareness stopped him. The armor was detecting movement, not human movement. 3 Vexillar scout ships were approaching the camp. Without conscious thought, Alan's body reacted. The armor shifted color, blending with the cliff face behind him. A targeting system appeared in his vision, tracking the scout ships. "What am I supposed to do?" Alan whispered. Knowledge unfolded in his mind like a blooming flower. The armor had weapons, energy-based weapons that could pierce Vexillar shields. Weapons he somehow knew how to use. He raised his arm, feeling the armor reconfigure around his hand. Energy gathered at his palm, building to a bright point of light. "I can't just." But the memory of the video on his phone stopped him. People being cut down in the streets. Humanity being harvested. Alan fired. A beam of blue-white energy shot from his palm, striking the lead scout ship. The craft exploded in a ball of flame. Before the other 2 could react, Alan fired twice more. 3 burning wrecks fell into the jungle. He stood frozen, shocked at what he had just done, at how easy it had been. The camp below erupted in panic. People were running, grabbing what they could. Carol was shouting orders, trying to organize an evacuation. Alan leaped from the cliff, falling 30 feet but landing softly, the armor absorbing the impact. He moved toward the camp, then stopped as a new alert appeared in his vision. The armor was detecting a Vexillar communication signal. It began translating automatically. "Scout Group 7, report." "Scout Group 7, respond." They know something happened, Alan realized. They'll send more. He needed to get the dig team to safety, but where was safe in a world under alien invasion? The armor provided an answer, showing him maps of hidden preserver outposts around the planet. The nearest was in the mountains of Colorado. Alan entered the camp, the armor shifting to a less threatening appearance, though still clearly not human technology. People gasped as he approached. "Professor Wright?" Carol asked, eyes wide with disbelief. "It's me," Alan said, his voice slightly distorted by the armor systems. "We need to move. Now. More are coming." "What is that thing? What happened to you?" she asked. "There's no time to explain everything," Alan said. "But this armor was left by an ancient race called the Preservers. They fought these aliens before, thousands of years ago. The armor contains their knowledge, their technology." "Why you?" one of the other archaeologists asked. Alan shook his head. "I don't know. Maybe anyone could have activated it. Maybe it was just luck that I found it when the invasion started. But it responds to me now, and it's telling me we need to get to Colorado." "Colorado?" Carol asked. "Why there?" "Because there's another armor there," Alan said. "And we're going to need more than one to fight back." Olivia and her small group moved through the forest at night. The alien ships still filled the sky, their lights scanning the ground below. During the day, they had to hide. Only under cover of darkness could they travel. "We should reach the mining complex by dawn," Paul said, checking a wrinkled map by the light of a covered flashlight. "If the rumors about this armored fighter are true, that's where we'll find him." "And if they're not true?" Sam asked, his young face tired and worried. "Then we keep moving," Olivia said firmly. "We find another way to fight back." Kate walked beside her sister, clutching a backpack with their few remaining supplies. "Do you think Mom and Dad made it out of Denver?" Olivia wanted to lie, to give her sister hope, but she couldn't. "I don't know. The city was hit hard." They walked in silence after that. The night was eerily quiet without the usual sounds of cars or planes. Even the wildlife seemed subdued, as if the animals knew something terrible had happened. Near midnight, they stopped to rest in an abandoned ranger station. Doug, a quiet mechanic who had joined them 3 days ago after they found him hiding in a gas station, took first watch. "I don't trust him," Sam whispered to Olivia as they spread out sleeping bags. "Why not?" she asked. Sam shrugged. Just a feeling. He never talks about himself. And have you noticed he doesn't eat with us? Olivia had noticed. She'd also noticed that Doug seemed to know exactly which direction to go when they needed to avoid Vexillar patrols. She kept a closer eye on him after that. They set out again before dawn. The sky was just beginning to lighten when Paul held up a hand, signaling them to stop. Ahead, a Vexillar patrol was setting up what looked like a checkpoint on the road leading to the mining complex. 5 of them, Paul whispered. Heavy weapons. We can go around, Kate suggested. Through the woods. No, Doug said suddenly. They've set up motion sensors in the trees. We need to go straight through. Olivia turned to him, her hand moving to her pistol. How do you know that? Before Doug could answer, a bright blue light flashed on the road ahead. One of the Vexillar checkpoint guards fell, a smoking hole in its chest. Then another. The remaining aliens fired their weapons at something moving too fast to see clearly. It's him, Paul breathed. The armored one. A figure in gleaming metal armor moved among the aliens with impossible speed. Energy beams from the Vexillar weapons seemed to slide off a shimmering field around him. He lifted an alien with one hand and threw it 30 feet into a tree. Now, Olivia shouted, drawing her pistol. While they're distracted, her group burst from cover, firing at the aliens who were focused on the armored figure. Between their bullets and the armored man's attacks, the checkpoint was quickly cleared. As the last alien fell, the armored figure turned toward them. The metal suit was like nothing Olivia had ever seen, silvery with blue lights running through it like veins. It didn't look human-made at all. Major Grant. A distorted voice came from the armor. Olivia stepped forward, her gun still raised. Who are you? How do you know my name? The armor's faceplate slid back, revealing the face of a middle-aged man with tired eyes. My name is Alan Wright. I'm an archaeologist. Or I was, until 4 days ago. Your sister Kate is with you, right? I was told to find you. Kate pushed forward. Yes, I'm here. Who told you about us? The armor did, Alan said. It knows things. It has maps, data, knowledge from the race that built it. The Preservers. They left these armors for us to find, to fight the Vexillar when they returned. Doug suddenly lunged forward, something metal and sharp extending from his hand. Preserver technology detected. Must eliminate. Alan moved faster than should have been possible, catching Doug's arm before the blade could strike. He's not human, Alan said, his faceplate sliding back into place. He's a Vexillar construct. An infiltrator. Olivia raised her gun, pointing it at Doug's head. You've been leading them to survivors. Not anymore, Alan said, and with a single motion, snapped the infiltrator's arm. The group stared at Doug, or what they had thought was Doug. His skin had torn where Alan grabbed him, revealing a gray, metallic surface underneath. His eyes, once brown, now glowed with an eerie yellow light. How long have you been watching us? Olivia demanded, her gun still aimed at his head. Since the beginning, the infiltrator said in a voice that no longer sounded human. We are everywhere among you. Learning, tracking, identifying threats. Alan's armor hummed as he held the creature firmly. We need information, he said to Olivia. The armor can extract data from him. Sam stepped forward. Do it. He led 3 families into a trap last week. I saw him talking on a radio when he thought no one was looking. Alan placed his armored hand on the infiltrator's head. Blue light spread from his palm, covering Doug's face. The creature screamed, a high-pitched sound no human could make. Then it went limp. What did you learn? Olivia asked as Alan released the body, letting it fall to the ground. Everything, Alan said, his voice grim even through the armor speakers. They know about the armor now. They're calling me the Awakened One. They're scared. He looked up at the sky, where Vexillar ships still moved in formation. They're redirecting forces to hunt me down. But more importantly, they've detected energy signatures from other armor caches. Kate moved closer, hope on her tired face. Other armors, like yours. Alan nodded. 3 more that they found. One is close. In the old mining complex we're heading toward. The others are scattered. California, New Mexico, Wyoming. Can anyone use them? Paul asked. I don't know, Alan admitted. The armor chose me somehow. Or maybe it was just luck that I found it first. But if more people could use them, we could fight back. Olivia finished. Actually fight back. They moved quickly after that, heading toward the abandoned gold mine that had been their destination all along. Alan led the way, the armor sensors scanning for threats. Twice they had to hide as Vexillar ships passed overhead. They're using new search patterns, Alan explained. The infiltrator must have been feeding them information about human movements. They're adapting. By midday, they reached the mine entrance, half collapsed and overgrown. An old sign warned of danger and unstable tunnels. The armor is detecting something below, Alan said. About 300 feet down, in the northeast tunnel. I know these mines, Paul said. My grandfather worked here. There should be an elevator shaft, if it's still intact. They found the shaft, rusty and ancient, but still in one piece. The elevator itself was long gone. I'll go first, Alan said. The armor can handle the drop. And how do the rest of us get down? Sam asked. Alan looked around, then pointed to a maintenance ladder built into the side of the shaft. It's old, but it might hold. Might? Kate asked nervously. Olivia checked her gun, making sure it was secure in its holster. We don't have a choice. The Vexillar are closing in, and we need whatever's down there. Alan jumped into the shaft, disappearing into darkness. A few seconds later, his voice came echoing up. It's clear. The ladder seems solid enough. One by one, they climbed down, the metal rungs creaking under their weight. At the bottom, Alan's armor glowed softly, lighting their way through a narrow tunnel. The air was stale and thick with dust. This way, he said, moving deeper into the mine. I can feel it calling, just like the first one did. They came to a wall that looked newer than the rest of the mine, made of smooth stone with familiar symbols carved into it. Preserver technology, Alan said, placing his hand on a marking in the center of the wall. The stone slid away, revealing a chamber beyond. Inside, standing upright like a soldier at attention, was another suit of armor. It was similar to Alan's but more slender, with red lights instead of blue running through its silver surface. It's waiting, Alan said, for someone to claim it. Olivia stepped forward, drawn to the armor as if it were calling her name. I think, she said slowly, it might be waiting for me. Olivia stood before the red-veined armor, her hand hovering inches from its surface. Everyone watched in silence, even Alan. How do I? She began. Just touch it, Alan said. If it accepts you, it will open. Olivia took a deep breath and placed her palm against the armor's chest. For a moment, nothing happened. Then red light spread from her hand, covering the entire suit. A seam appeared down the middle, and the armor opened like a flower. It's accepting you, Alan said, a hint of relief in his voice. Step inside. Olivia hesitated only briefly before stepping into the open armor. It closed around her, sealing her inside. She gasped, her body going rigid. Is she okay? Kate cried, rushing forward. Alan held her back. It's connecting to her nervous system, downloading information. It hurts, but it will pass. Inside the armor, Olivia experienced the same flood of memories and knowledge that Alan had. Stars, battles, alien worlds, the history of the Preservers, and their war with the Vexillar. But her armor showed her different things too. Tactical data, battle strategies, weak points in Vexillar ships and armor. When the download finished, Olivia stood straighter, her movements smooth and controlled. The red lights of her armor pulsed in time with her heartbeat. "I understand now," she said, her voice altered by the suit's systems. "My armor is a tactical model. Yours is reconnaissance and first contact." They were designed to work together, Alan agreed. There should be two more, a heavy assault model and a technical specialist. Sam looked between them. "So we need to find the others." "Yes," Alan said, "but we have another problem." He pointed upward. "The Vexillar know we're here. They've tracked the energy signature of the second armor activating." Through her new armor sensors, Olivia could see it too, dozens of ships converging on their location. "We have maybe 10 minutes before they reach us." "We'll never make it out in time," Paul said. Alan and Olivia looked at each other, a silent understanding passing between them. Their armors were already sharing data, forming a tactical network. "You don't need to run," Alan said to the group. "We'll handle this." "Are you crazy?" Kate asked. "There must be 30 ships up there." 37, Olivia corrected, the information flowing to her through the armor. "All Scout-class vessels with standard weapons." "We can take them," Alan said with confidence that surprised even him. "The armor knows their weaknesses. And now so do we." They led the group back up to the surface, emerging into late afternoon sunlight. The Vexillar ships were visible now, dark shapes against the cloudy sky, drawing closer by the second. "Find cover," Olivia ordered the others. "Stay hidden no matter what happens." As the group retreated to the shelter of the nearby trees, Alan and Olivia stood side by side in the clearing before the mine entrance. Their armors began to change, weapon systems coming online, energy building around their hands and shoulders. "Your left, my right," Alan suggested. Olivia nodded, a targeting system appearing in her vision. "Just like the Battle of Proxima Centauri." "You saw that too." "Different perspective. Same battle." The first Vexillar ship came into range, energy weapons charging. Before it could fire, Olivia raised her hand. A beam of red energy shot from her palm, striking the ship's propulsion system, exactly where her armor told her it was weakest. The ship spun out of control, crashing into the mountainside. Ellen fired next, bringing down 2 ships with precise shots to their weapon arrays. More ships approached, and the 2 armored humans moved with perfect coordination, as if they had fought together for years. Their armor guided them, predicted enemy movements, highlighted targets. What should have been an impossible fight became almost easy. In the trees, the others watched in amazement as Alan and Olivia decimated the alien fleet. Ship after ship fell from the sky, either destroyed outright or forced to crash land. "My God," Paul whispered, "we might actually have a chance." Kate stared at her sister, now a blur of red light, as she leaped 20 feet in the air to fire at a low-flying ship. "They never stood a chance," she said. "Not against that." Word of the battle spread quickly. Survivors with working radios heard about the 2 armored humans who destroyed an entire fleet of Vexillar ships. Hope, nearly extinct after a week of alien domination, began to flicker back to life. 2 weeks later, Alan and Olivia stood on a mountain ridge overlooking what had once been Denver. 4 massive Vexillar ships hovered above the ruined city. Between them hung a 5th vessel, twice the size of the others, the command ship that directed the invasion of the entire western United States. "The other armors are active," Alan said, watching data flow across his vision. His armor had been tracking their progress. Kate bonded with the technical armor in New Mexico. Jack found the heavy assault model in Wyoming. "Are they coming?" Olivia asked. Alan nodded. "ETA 20 minutes. The Vexillar don't know about them yet. They're still focused on us." After their first victory, Alan and Olivia had conducted hit-and-run attacks across Colorado, destroying smaller Vexillar outposts and freeing captured humans. Each success had drawn more alien attention, exactly as they planned. "The command ship shields are stronger than anything we faced," Olivia said, her armor's tactical systems analyzing the massive vessel. "We can't penetrate them from outside." "Then we go inside," Alan replied. When Kate and Jack arrived, the four armored humans gathered on the ridge. Their suits were similar but distinct. Alan's blue light, Olivia's red, Kate's green, and Jack's yellow. Together, they formed a complete combat unit, just as the Preservers had designed thousands of years ago. "The plan is simple," Olivia explained, her tactical armor taking the lead. "Alan and I will create a diversion, drawing their fighters away from the command ship. Kate, your technical armor can hack their systems and lower the shields around their landing bay. Jack, once we're inside, your heavy armor will clear the path to their control center." "What if there are too many?" Jack asked, still getting used to his armor's strength. "There won't be," Alan said confidently. "Not for us. Not together." The attack began at sunset. Alan and Olivia launched themselves into the air, their armored flight systems carrying them toward the smaller ships. They fired on the vessels, causing just enough damage to attract attention without posing a serious threat. Dozens of Vexillar fighters poured out of the ships, chasing the two humans across the sky. Meanwhile, Kate and Jack approached the command ship from below, undetected. Kate placed her hand on the ship's hull, her armor's technical systems connecting to the alien computer network. Green light spread from her palm, penetrating the metal. "I'm in," she said. "Shield control located. Disabling in 3, 2, 1. A section of the massive ship's underside shimmered and went dark. Jack didn't hesitate. His yellow armor glowing with power, he smashed through the now unshielded hull, tearing a hole big enough for them to enter. Inside, Vexillar soldiers rushed to respond to the breach. Jack's armor shifted, heavy weapons forming on his arms and shoulders. The corridor filled with brilliant yellow light as he cleared the way forward. While the battle raged inside the ship, Alan and Olivia continued their diversion, staying just ahead of the pursuing fighters. When they received Kate's signal that they had reached the control center, they changed course, heading straight for the command ship. They crashed through the same breach Jack had created, racing through the corridors to join their teammates. By the time they reached the control center, Kate had already accessed the ship's main systems. "I can shut down their life support," she said, "or I can do something better." "Better how?" Alan asked. Kate's fingers moved across alien control surfaces, guided by her armor's knowledge. "I can send a signal to every Vexillar ship on Earth, a self-destruct command they can't override." The four looked at each other, their faceplates sliding back to reveal their human expressions. This could end the invasion in one stroke. "Do it," Olivia said. Kate pressed her palm to the main console. Green light flowed from her armor into the ship's systems. For a moment, nothing happened. Then alarms began to blare throughout the vessel. "We have 5 minutes," Kate said. "Let's go." They fought their way back to the breach, their armors working in perfect harmony. As they leaped from the ship, explosions began to chain through its massive structure. From the ground, survivors watched in awe as every Vexillar ship in sight began to break apart, consumed by fire. The night sky filled with falling debris, like deadly shooting stars. The invasion was over. Humanity had won. And somewhere in the stars, the remaining Vexillar fleet received the message. Earth was protected. The descendants of the Preservers had awakened.